Port Authority of Guam, Department of Parks and Recreation, Guam International Airport Authority, Mayor's Council of Guam, University of Guam, Northern Zone Water Conservation District. President.
Recording in progress.
Guam Homeland Security. Official members, USDA FSBQ, and Wildlife Services. Governor's Office. Guam EPA. Bureau 66 Plan. Joint Task Force, Department of Partners, Chamber of Commerce, Department of Public Health and Social Services, Port Users Group Guam. I'd like to take note that we do have a quorum.
Do we have a motion to approve the meetings from the July 10th meeting?
I need to accept the minutes of the July 10th, 2024 meeting minutes.
We have a motion for Mr. Santos. Do we have a second?
To accept.
Mr. Kidwell, second. To accept. Did everyone hear me clearly? And our members on Zoom? Thumbs up. Benita, can you hear us?
Hi, I can. Sorry, it's a little hard to hear, but yes, I'm here.
Better now?
Yes, better now.
Okay, item 3 on the agenda is our co-chair reports. I believe we will receive the Department of Agriculture's report from Dr. Andrea Laws.
So currently on the agenda, we have the co-chair reports, and the first co-chair report will be the Long Island Biosecurity Training workshop, which will be provided.
Good morning. So Andrea Moss here. I am one of the coordinators for the CRT management program that works with Biosecurity Division here. And then as well, I am the regional research coordinator for Micronesia Conservation Trust. And regional research coordinator for invasive species and climate change. It's a long title. But as an update for the island biosecurity training that's going to be taking place here in Guam. Planning team that consists of members from the 2023 Regional Biosecurity Training planning team. From that, we did a post-workshop evaluation and from participants and also from members of the JS, asking to identify priorities or priority topics for the 2024, what was scheduled for the 2024 on-island biosecurity training. There was very low participation in the survey, even though we released it twice, as well as having debrief meetings with Benita from the Office of Consular Affairs, who was also on the organizing team. So the Guamese organizers, we got together and we looked at those results from the survey from participants as well as, and then also identified some topics for a theme for the 2024, what was supposed to be, will now be the 2025 on-island biosecurity training. With that, we have a proposed theme and we've identified some topics from the participant responses from the survey. And additionally, I was able to apply for and secure a grant for the Los Angeles trainers to come here, so travel funding as well as funding for Betty for the island security training. Our tentative dates right now are January 13th, 17th, 2025. Originally, this was supposed to take place in October 2024. Delays in the release of funds and the program for OIA that got pushed back. So now we're looking at doing this in January 2025. If we complete it at that time, the next availability for a lot of the trainers will not be until summer 2025. So we're really trying to get that done January. And so again, that's we have a overall scheme that is proposed by the planning team and taking into account the participant response from the survey on what they want to see during the training.
Dr. Buzz. Now we'd like to move forward to non-custody quarantine. Or the modern organization.
Well, first of all, thank you, Chris, for spending together. I think it's very important for us to several times a year just to make sure that we're in line with what the initiative of the infectious country is all about. And today, representing my agency with respect to even providing an update on our modernization project of customs. And so, start with the modernization, we had a consultant that arrived sometimes on the second week of September and conducted 2 weeks of harmonized training to our staff. This is the first phase of the modernization that we're taking advantage of, and hopefully that we can move forward in making sure that we do conduct another training just for the stakeholders so that they can understand where we're coming from with respect to modernization. It's important for us to say that we cannot modernize without the implementation of the harmonized system, because the harmonized system is the so-called language of international trade. And in order for us to move forward with modernization, we have to clearly understand the movement of what the World Customs Organization is all about with respect to facilitating trade at our borders. And so the training was the first phase. We are also looking forward in making sure that the rules and regs that are being crafted is moving forward insofar as making sure that we at least have the first draft of the rules and regs by the end of this year, and hopefully that we can provide a final product by the part of 2025. Thirdly, I would also like to say that with respect to modernization, we're meeting with the UNTAC representative. UNTAC representative is from the United Nations, working with the World Customs Organization to ensure that modernization is in line with the implementation of the harmonized system. We will be signing an MOU with UNTAC to start the modernization project insofar as providing infrastructure that we need for the agency. And lastly, I can only say that for the last 3 months, we have been busy at the Port of Entry with respect to invasive species, and we've been collaborating and working closely with the Department of Agriculture with respect to the types of invasive species that are coming to our borders. And I want to thank Mr. Rizal for his active participation in helping with our biosecurity and trying to mitigate the problems as we continue to venture with all the imports coming to our borders. So that's my report.
Thank you. Yes, Mr.
Actually, 2 things. I have a question on the infrastructure. You said you wanted to update the infrastructure, but what type of infrastructure Are we updating the, I mean, you talked about a particular program, right? That where the world,
So when I talk about infrastructure, that's the platform that we're trying to put together. The platform that we're trying to put together, we have is an automated system that is currently being used within the Pacific region. And that's what we're working with the World Customs Organization.
so that doesn't include the physical infrastructure.
Yes,
It includes it.
yes.
Okay, so that's, I just wanted to know, a clarification that, but I'm sure also, there was a motion made and we didn't accept, we didn't vote on the motion to accept the minutes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Santos, we can, my apologies to the council, we can move back to item number 3. We had a motion to approve or accept the minutes, a second, and we did not vote, all in favor. After we accept.
So before we accepted, the motion was made, but now we just open for discussion, and then we can go on to accept it.
Okay, can we open the discussion for the minute regarding last meeting's minutes, the July 10th minutes? Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair. University of Guam report, number 3 action. Mentioned the Guam first financial plan. We need to, correctly, written down as Fish and Wildlife Services. It should be USDA Wildlife Services.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, could you go, which
Or is
item
it,
number?
would you like Fish Wildlife Services? But, Fish or USDA?
USDA Wildlife Services is fine.
Okay. Number 3 is the village report. Yeah. It says, the Guam Federal Swat National Plan from Fish and Wildlife Services. That should be USDA Wildlife Services. Very different.
What is it?
I'm not seeing this online. Yeah.
It's here on the second to the last page, top
So
3.
it's different.
We have different
Minutes.
visits in the package.
Well, it says here, action, volunteer, Guam mentioned that Guam Federal Swim Management Plan from Fish and Wildlife Services. And asked Roy Gamboa to follow up on the plan and its status. So that's what you're referencing.
Yeah. It's different.
Sorry, to have different copies of this list. So we're not seeing the same thing that all of us. Okay, has everyone seen the same thing on the 3rd page of the minutes? Under the sediment, soil, water.
There it is.
It's under the southern soil and water conservation, district report, item number 3, action. Okay. So just to remove fish and replace it with USDA,
Or APHIS.
USDA APHIS.
I asked him if he prefers USDA.
USDA Wildlife Services is fine. We don't have to have the whole APHIS.
Okay,
So just add USDA wildlife services.
so noted. Anything else for discussion? May we get a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Nicola makes the motion, any second?
Second,
Mr. Sanchez seconded, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, the minutes have been accepted. And we move on to item 5, the treasurer's report.
For the treasurer report of the fiscal year 2023, collected fees total of $8,812,683. Appropriated funds was $641,466. And the supplemental costs that were provided was $171,217. That's for fiscal year 23. Fiscal year 2024, total amount of collected fees was $1,664,785. Appropriated costs were $654,864. Supplemental costs that was provided by the budget division was $1,009,921.
1,900,000.
Yeah, 9,000.
9,000.
Yeah, 1,009,921.
Can you explain the difference between, sorry, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Appropriated and supplemental, they're money both appropriated, it's just, it's a different bill that was added in, or?
Yes, so initially with the legislature's appropriation, the amounts appropriated did not equal the amounts collected. So it wasn't actually, we didn't have to go through the legislative process. We submitted a work request to BBMR because the language was already included in the budget bill to allow access to the fees collected beyond the appropriated amount. So we submitted a work request to BBMR and then provided a supplemental amounts that are made available.
Okay, so the total amount that can be used for the biosecurity division is both the appropriated and the supplemental.
Yes.
So that's a total of over 2 million or 1.7 million?
It'll equal the,
1.7 million around?
for fiscal year 24, yes.
Now, how about 25? Have they approved the 25?
I believe the budget has been signed by the governor, and the amount appropriated was, I can fill up an exact number for you, but I believe it was roughly 700,000 appropriated, so there will be another supplemental, provided at some point when we detect that the amounts collected have exceeded the appropriated amount, which we anticipate.
But just what now on fiscal year 23 to 24, is there a carryover of the budget amount, or is it dead?
It's not dead, it was also in the budget language for 23, it's still provided for access to the appropriated amount or the amount that exceeded the appropriation. So the account is still there and we're accessing those funds until they're depleted, which, I mean, the supplemental for 23 was 171,000. That will go quickly as we try to approve.
So it's a rollover into the next fiscal year to exhaust it?
Yes, it's available in the next fiscal year
Yes.
to exhaust it, yes.
Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Are there any other discussions or questions related to the treasurer's report? Next item on the agenda is item 6, committee reports, beginning with governance. Mr. Lizardo.
Okay, so for last meeting on July 10th, we had discussed the creation of committees. And we came up with 4 committees. As you can see on the committee reports, there's governance committee, there's an education and marketing committee, there's the budgeting committee, as well as the equipment and facilities committee. Governance committee, there was a motion to create this governance committee that oversees basically the creation of the position descriptions and the organizational chart of the biosecurity division. So there has been a organizational chart that has been created. I don't think it's been placed in the supplemental documentation that you may have in front of you. But I have it here. I can go ahead and pass it around. I would like to show it there.
If you scan the QR code, you'll need to.
Okay. So, okay, there's QR codes on the table. It's to say okay.
By the way, I just want to bring up a point of information that this thing over here, when you scan it in, it will reflect a lot of the other resources or references that the chief may bring up. Oh,
Sorry.
I just want to point out that the information on the QR code will take you to a drive that has references to anything dealing with what we're discussing, so that there's no, if you want to reference it or want to go back to it, it's right here in the QR code. Thank you.
Question. You have your diagram, for your structure. I see under the species section, agriculturalist. I don't see biosecurity position. And if I'm correct, the public law requires the Department of Agriculture to stand up and create biosecurity positions.
Yes. Although this was done prior to our term at the department, from what I understand, that after consultation with the Department of Administration, they have deemed that these positions or position titles and their corresponding position descriptions satisfies the requirements for those positions to work within the biosecurity division. So that's why there are agriculturists and agricultural management specialists, and would be in their specific position description questionnaires. So with the Department of Administration, every position identified has a corresponding position description. And that's firm, it's finalized, that's what's there with the Department of Administration. To change that is basically a 6-month process of reviews. But when an agency is hiring to fill that specific position, they then have to fill out a more specific position description questionnaire to line item almost what that position or what the person filling that position is going to do. So then that allows for the specification of working on biosecurity or invasive species specific funded projects that they will employ equipment to assess for the presence of invasive species, or write reports, or consult with, other invasive species partners. That's where it gets more specific. But based on consultation with DOA, they felt that these specific titles are sufficient to fill those biosecurity positions. What we can do for the next council meeting, or even in the interim if you would like, is send you the position descriptions for these titles so that you can see and question if they're suitable for a biosecurity position.
I thank you for the clarification. I'm asking this of the council. If you're talking about a biosecurity position, does this fit? I mean, everybody feel comfortable with her explanation. And the reason why I said that is because coming from, if I were a biosecurity officer, I don't know how that would look in my resume if I am an agricultural management specialist. And if I wanted to advance in my career in biosecurity. So I see what you say, how within the job description you can find that out, but I'm not sure, and I don't know whether the others here have experienced that might either led to accepting it or rejecting it. I just want to add for my contribution.
I think what may a fair consideration would be for those who work within USDA APHIS, what are their corresponding titles for their positions, that for those who engage in biosecurity work, is it any different? Like, what would your title be?
Specialist.
The officer.
Right, but that being phased out now, yeah, it's being phased out, some still have that, but they're being phased out now to the new plant health safeguard specialist title.
That helps safeguard.
That's
That's what it means, it's like, it's not really a good comparison, because the people that actually conduct that kind of stuff are like the plant protection technician, or the people that actually do the groundwork for it. And then the supervisor, the officer supervisors are the plant health safeguard specialists.
But actually, for expediency, I just wanted to bring up, if you read a K for the duties of the council, when the organizational chart was approved, it was approved with the understanding that the council will work with the governor's office to make sure that the interagency biosecurity task force work plan, which is appendix A of the law that created the council, would be also updated by the council. And so so for time expediency, maybe we can defer to the governance committee and have the governance committee meet and bring that up in the next council meeting as to how we're gonna work that and make sure that it's thorough in terms of the actual position that's actually needed. I agree with what Council Member Ron Kirigua mentioned. You know, I was part of the National Guard and I was the Force Integration Readiness Officer. We created a civil support team, which is individuals that were specialized in like when you're talking about biosecurity or security. And so they were specialized in their field, although they came from different areas. They became specialized in that, and that's the training. Likewise, maybe the agricultural specialist, if the position description was modified or something was added to it, that dealt with biosecurity, then okay, we can put that in because you can describe the position description as a part of it. So I don't know, but to me, I recommend that we move into the governance subcommittee or committee and have them come back on the next meeting with the actual organizational makeup that needs to happen in order to effectively address the invasive species counts, invasive species in Guam. You want me to motion that?
Yes, can we clarify the action item task?
Yeah, we just, we defer it or we move it to the governance committee to report on. I move that we take this, the organizational chart, or organizational makeup and, send it to the, governance subcommittee for review and recommendation to the council on the next council meeting.
What recommendations are you asking for?
For the governance committee to make it, what is the appropriate, titles and appropriate positions that are needed for the biosecurity division. And that will comply with, the law that created the council and requires the council to update the interagency biosecurity task force work plan.
I think I do six. So, just, essentially, what is going to review it and see whether it's needs to be done or not.
Yes.
That is, I'll second.
Okay.
Discussion.
I would just contend that then, as we this committee, they will review the position descriptions and see if there's any alignment or if it needs to be changed, because then they'll have to create new position descriptions if they're creating new titles. And to remind the council that when all this is approved, the process to go through with the Department of Administration still takes a minimum of 6 months and requires submission to the governor and the legislature. Any other discussion? All in favor of this action item?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Rosario, continue the report.
All right, well, that was the only task that was set forth for the governance committee during the last meeting. Yeah, the action was, on the last meeting, was the governance committee tasked to review and provide clarification on fiscal year 24 and 25 organizational charts and make sure that they are compliant. So I'd like to now move forward with
That question?
Yeah.
So my question is, you're saying that the organizational chart has been submitted and it's part of the budget?
Yeah, so that is potentially the issue that we have here, is that we already an approved budget for these specific positions. And now that we are planning to move forward with changing it, then we will not be able to fill these positions.
No, not necessarily, because it'll still, by the time everything gets said and done, it'll be the new fiscal year, and you can have those new fiscal, those positions. Well,
We're now for fiscal year 26.
yes, for fiscal year 26, but it's also going to require modification because the agency will be required to submit our budget request to BMR in February, typically. So by February
They should be
2025, we'll be submitting our fiscal year 26 ask. And then that will get approved and the governor's budget will come down by April, May, and then legislative hearings. So this will kind of all be having to happen concurrently. And then, so we might not actually see the position changes until fiscal year 26.
So, two questions.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
What are the microphones that they can hear?
Sorry.
it's not on the administrative side of the house, like so positions that are announced now, if we're proceeding with the approved budget for the positions as listed, and they're filled, and they change, those positions, those people in those positions, should we have people hired, will then have to reapply for their very positions and or new people hired.
That's what I was thinking about also, but we'll have to ask that question to DOA.
Because you can't just swap them for
No.
one position, they have to actively.
So I just want to clarify, the K, and the latter part of the K, which is the duties of the council, it's to update the interagency biosecurity task force work plan. Within that work plan is the descriptions that were originally approved by the legislature. And it requires the council to update that work plan, but update it not to the Budget Act, but going through a AAA process. So the Administrative Adjudication Act, and you're absolutely correct. If an individual is hired as an agricultural specialist, and there's no agricultural specialist within the recommendation that came up as approved by the council through the Administrative Adjudication Act, that you can't fire the individual. The individual either has to get certified training, qualified in the position, or is moved within the department to meet the needs of if they don't meet the requirement of within the biosecurity division. But that, again, we need to refer it back to the governance subcommittee, and let the subcommittee be the one to come up with recommendations, because they'll look at all the facets of transaction or action.
If I recall, the 2009 work plan, that was just an agreement between Customs and Quarantine and the Department of
But this
Agriculture.
is how the position description.
You listed position descriptions?
Yeah, it's an org chart. It's an organizational chart that was a part of that.
Oh, I see the appendix, okay.
Yes.
And Madam Chair, just for point of clarification, everybody on this organizational chart is funded by the biosecurity plan, right?
Invasive species fund.
First, the business
Yes.
fund. And all of these people, their primary duties are related to biosecurity.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion? Do we need to vote on the action item? Or is it just? Oh, we did?
The discussion.
Okay, with that, we move forward to the Education and Membership Committee.
As you guys know, first off, I am asking people, because I only got one council member who asked to be on the education committee. So if there are any other council members that would like to be part of the education, and that would please let me know. Also, as you see with the mandates of the Guam Species Council, we still have to come up with a mission and vision statement. I think it would be put hard for the horse if we were to start doing outreach without it being focused. So I believe that we need to get that together first before we start moving with the outreach. Not to say that we should not have any discussions on how we want to move towards a particular goal. So once again, if anybody wants to do any, wants to be involved, I'm going to the participation, active participation.
But actually, I just wanted to bring up that, we didn't allocate the council members into the various committees, and I recommend that we do that so that, when like for instance, Ron is concerned, he's bringing up that he only has one individual, but there are how many council members on the council and the ex official members, so If we can do that so that it's fair and equitable and the chairs, appropriate chairs have the individuals that they call a subcommittee meeting. Hopefully that can be done now. Thank you.
So we can start back down to the governance committee. For those members who would like to volunteer their efforts to be part of the committee. Because also for governance committee, it's only one person, which is myself.
Can we just go down the list of the voting and exhibition members and partners and just assign them? It's a lot easier, if they want to volunteer, then fine. If they don't want to volunteer, then appoint them. Because they're a member, they're supposed to be a voting member, and they're part of the council. And we need their help in doing it. So why don't we just go down the list then right here on the agenda and just say who's going to be on what committee. So there's four committees.
But I would like to point out that for the voting members, we have 4 agencies that are not here in our exhibition.
So we can recommend that they be on that committee and then get with them to ask if they would like to accept being on that committee. And then if they don't, then offer the other committees for them to be on. But in the meanwhile, we just need to move forward so that the committee chairs can make sure they move forward in the actions that they need to do. Like for instance, we can create a mission statement for the Invasive Species Council. So and that can be done with the governance committee. So and a lot of the duties and responsibilities as listed on here on this chart or this thing, they can address those issues. So hopefully we can do that now, or go down the list and see who's going to be on what committee.
Motion to.
Or just go around Guam Department of Agriculture.
Point of clarification, Madam Chair. I like the idea, but I don't know if it's appropriate because it's on the agenda.
That's it, I was thinking the same thing.
Actually, it's on the committee reports, but we haven't, you can have a committee report, but you don't have a committee established. We have the committee name, but we don't have who's on. In order to report, we need to define who's the members of those subcommittees. And it's on the agenda, because it says committee reports.
While working down through the list of voting members, we have the Department of Agriculture assigned to governance, customs and quarantine. Education. Port Authority. Is education.
Yeah, we are all told.
Northern Guam.
Governance.
Southern.
Madam Chair, we've already worked out one and only.
And then ex officio members, USDA APHIS.
You guys have to volunteer for any particular committee.
Sure, I'd like to be a part of the education.
And that leaves us with Department of Navy and NAFA.
Too much government. If students would like to volunteer for governance.
Okay, and then Department of Navy, NAFA.
Would you like to volunteer to?
So there are 4 committees. There's governance committee, education, committee, marketing and budgeting, equipment. that I'd like to get back to us.
I think there's more interest in the other subcommittees. So, maybe volunteering for those also, but at the same time, like, is it possible for like assigning someone to attend? For example, because, being involved in so many different things that might be an issue attending certain meetings.
I'm sorry, can you clarify that one for me?
No, I was just wondering if we can have like one of our, say for example, a staff or another board member attend in our place because of the.
Oh, so it would be your person or a designated representative? Yes, absolutely.
We're really,
That's how we always everything.
yeah, that's what I thought, so I just want to make sure. So-
Designated representative.
So I'm thinking we might want to look into budget committee. Or marketing budget.
First, it sounds like you'll be the chair.
Madam Chairman, I highly recommend that, for those members who are absent, that you should reach out to them and ask them to sign up for a committee, at least one committee, for the agenda side.
Okay. We consider that membership issue closed for now and move on with our reports. Okay. Let's move on with or is there any other report out for education and membership? Ron? Anything else for education and membership committee?
No, I did what you were.
Okay, so next committee report, marketing and budget,
So let's go.
that's a new committee.
Yeah.
And equipment and facilities, new committee, no reports. And we can move on to member reports, agenda item number 7. Member reports. Starting out with the Department of Agriculture, any member report there? CQA, we heard about your, harmonization and improvements, anything else you want to report?
Yes, I forgot to mention, this morning that, we recently acquired 3 agricultural canine handlers and their canines and they've been assigned to our biosecurity officer, or like USDA for their involvement in making sure that we acquire the additional canines that are going to be utilized not only at the airport, but now we can use them at our facility. So we welcome those 3 handlers.
Thank you, Director Alfredo. Going back, Mr. Rosario.
So, just this past week, we were able to get, 2 applicants, 2 qualified applicants for the invasive species coordinator position. And currently now we are going to be scheduling interviews. And hopefully by next month, we'll have, or at least by the next guest meeting, we'll have a new invasive species coordinator. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next member, Port Authority Guam.
Yes, so, sorry for the last, meeting, draw, I didn't connect. From the beginning of the year to today's date, we have about 4 incidents where we discovered, that the cargo, the road was like, 2 of them were just, turning back window. We've been working on Department of Agriculture, that was about security, section. treating all the trees and everything for the right of way. And, working with the security task force, whatever the couple is expected. We still need to get with, the group, because before this whole entire administration came, we needed to come up with a SOP. In collaboration with UOG and agriculture, come up with a kind of operating procedure, how we were supposed to do the operation. Because right now, we're still following the guidance that you guys made. And whenever something is discovered, we shut down the whole entire operation. But I don't want that because the company lose money to farmers. Everybody's affected by that. So we're trying to move forward with every situation and discovering something after midnight. It's kind of hard to look up everybody. So that's the whole purpose of our task force that we're supposed to have done. Get back on track with that.
So regarding that, I would like to make a motion to put this forth with the facilities and equipment committee to spearhead the.
Whenever they discover something about it.
Yes, so can I get the first motion, so now need a second motion. Get the raw second motions now. Now we shall take discussions. Oh, discussion, sorry. All right, any discussion?
Mr. Rosario and Mr. Santos, do you need any specialized assistance in this? Any particular?
Yes, because when something is discovered, let's say you have to wake up the doctors, you have to wake up the oncologist, we have to wake up everybody. So we don't have, and then when they do answer, they refer to somebody else, and that just keeps delaying the lesson. So everybody loses money when you delay this. That's something that we're trying to avoid.
I agree with that. And definitely we need to make sure that we understand what we need to do upon the encounters of any invasive species of the borders. And it's very important for us to act immediately, as you mentioned, because it's going to delay all the movements down the port. And it's vital that we sit down and identify what are the protocols. And if we don't have that SOP at this point in time, then we should create one and make sure that we have one that we can work with. And that's about the only thing. I think this is urgent.
Madam Chair, we don't have a quick reaction force when dealing that, or it's not established?
The action force that we have is from my agency. Should an officer inspecting a vessel down at the port come across any type of invasive species, the reaction force that will come up is our task force biosecurity within customs. They respond accordingly, regardless of what time it is. But after that, our board member here is saying that the other members that are need to be actively informed is the problem. Where do we go from there? What do my biosecurity task force do after they have mitigated the concerns of the port? Where does it go from there? And that's what we need to address.
So that, I mean, how many years has that been? We haven't yet been solidified that portion.
There was a normal, I think, operating process that already had happened, and part of what has, created more confusion is that we've had people change out from positions, because I think at the time it was that they would call Dr. Campbell would call the invasive species. Was Dr. Dula at the time, but since then, Dr. Campbell was retired, we've lost Dr. Dula, we replaced Dr. Dula, and then that person has also left, so that there's no invasive species coordinator who would respond. So then that moves on to Chris, but there was never a formal process, it was just an informal process that happened.
We're supposed to make a task force between UOG, agriculture, because as of now, right now, discover something on the vessel, operations cease. And then by the time they report customs, I'm like, that person's come on board, they take a photo, they capture it, by the time they go there, all of everything. The vessel has been delayed for about an hour or two.
So can we infer, make sure that the governance committee meets, that's brought up as a point of concern and making sure that they address that issue?
Absolutely, I think it's between the two committees that an SOP will need to be formed or developed.
It's, yeah, so, well, that's, they made a direction to talk across the ball. But still, it came to a point where, like, TN had to get involved after hours, like early in the morning, because the animologist did not answer the phone, and I said, we couldn't hold, we had to do it, and move forward with the operation, because they have a closed window for the vessel to be. And we can't accommodate, we need to accommodate that closed window. So, there's a lot of, nice stuff that can be corrected and created.
And I think this also goes to a point that may need an amendment to GCA regarding who's identified as being able to respond, because it also it introduces the aspects of night differential.
Right.
For employees when they're responding after hours. And I think that's only specified for customs and quarantine through GCA, but not to agriculture employees. And that was also an issue, so that needs to be settled as well.
Right. Thank you.
So then, do we amend the motion to include the governance committee and the equipment and facilities committee work together to develop an SOP as well as draft legislation to amend the GCA?
I second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries for that item. Next on the agenda is repair here, DIA, and repairs council here, University of Guam.
The other thing I have to, part of this part is the University of Guam Administration, to update the Macro Regional Biosecurity Plan. So we will reach out to our other jurisdictions and our fellow partners and, working on that. That's basically focused on this one.
Thank you, University of Guam, Northern Guam Soil and Water Conservation District.
Yeah, the same report from the last time we met in terms of the grants that we have. We have a signed agreement, I guess, with the APHIS in terms of the feral swine side of the house, and then there's an agricultural symposium next week. Hopefully you guys can attend. It's happening on 8th and 9th over here in the Guam Museum, and it also involves about agriculture, but invasive species as the involvement also with that. So it's hosted by Department of Agriculture, the district, and the Guam Sustainability. So please, if you can attend. It's the 8th and 9th of October. Thank you.
Next is Southern Guam Soil and Water Conservation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Southern Guam Soil and Water Conservation District remains dedicated to addressing critical resource concerns through collaborative efforts with our local stakeholders as well as federal partners. Our ongoing projects focus on enhancing conservation efforts and ensuring sustainable agricultural practices for the benefit of the community and the environment. So I know I mentioned a few of these things in the last meeting, but I just kind of give a little bit more update to. Okay, number one, the feral swine tracking program. SWC's Southern Guam continues its successful feral swine tracking program in collaboration with APHIS, as well as the Big Rig system. We will be signing our agreements, I believe, with APHIS soon, and
the big bridge system, we've already deployed to big bridge traps within our southern area. Recently, we secured that $750,000 grant to provide federal big perimeter fencing for landowners in collaboration with the University of Guam. We are developing a cost-effective specifications for fencing, ensuring it adheres to the federal conservation standards. This program is critical in managing the growing feral pig population, which poses a significant threat to the local agricultural and natural resources. Our local working group meeting, we conducted a local working group meeting. It was held August 2nd, 2024. Identified pest pressure and invasive species management as the top priority resource concern for Guam. To address these critical issues, we plan to host a follow-up meeting with the group to develop targeted initiatives aimed at reducing pest pressures and managing invasive species more effectively. Invasive species management, Southern Guam is actively working with NRCS to prioritize invasive species management planning for private landowners. Through these efforts, we aim to implement strategies that mitigate the impact of invasive species on local ecosystems and agricultural production.
Thank you. Move on to reports from our partners, the members. USDA Wildlife Service.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here as part of this committee. We are just moving forward with our normal projects that we work, of course, we're have a huge BTS interdiction program to try to stop them from, getting to some of our surrounding islands. We're also in the process of re-signing an agreement with the Department of Agriculture for Cocos Island for the BTS work out there and the beginning of the rat eradication out there. We recently, our state director spent a lot of time with the Wake Island rat eradication over the last 5 years, and which was executed this year. So we're pretty fresh and ready to go for rat work and the challenges that come along with it. We, as was mentioned before, we'll be signing some feral swine projects with, of course, our longtime partners, the Northern and Southern Soil Boards. And then we're also going to be working with Guam National Wildlife Refuge this year with some of their feral swine challenges. Other than that, we're just happy to be part of this community and with this group of people, and we're here to help in any way possible.
Thank you, Mr. Rodney. I want to also mention that USDA APHIS for wildlife side will be entering into an agreement with us as well for technical assistance for the feral and removal, and that we should collaborate. So it's this lucrative project, and we can expand our reach further since we're doing the same work and aligning our training so that it happens at the same time.
And I think that's a big part of our plan. So already.
Yes. And it involves bringing in the mayors for training as well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. USDA APHIS.
It's for USDA APHIS from our last meeting. We've gone to the board. It's for CQA's MOU that's been completed as of right after that meeting this July 10th. The science is our MOU with CQA for 8 July, so for 5 years.
Great.
Aside from that, Mr. Barreto indicated we have 3 new AQI also had 2 trainers that came over just after to do their installation here, and also validate 2 that are running. So we had that last month. Also, 8771 goes down in August, the waiting period has been ongoing, and as far as the spending plan, we're probably going to be something early 25. That's pretty much what we done.
Thank you. Next partner, Camp Laws Environmental. That's that.
Good morning, this is Steve Mosher, the Regional Prosecutor Program Manager for NAFAC, the Navy on Guam. We're continuing our prosecuting program with funding to USDA for drug tracing and interdiction, as well as our early detection surveys across all the installations on Guam. So for all species, high-risk species we're looking for. We also are continuing our CRB interdiction program on database Guam and Anderson. And we're up to 27 LFA sites that we're in the process of validating or in the control process right now.
Thank you. That concludes partner reports. Here. Oh. Report of report users.
Sorry. Things that we're saying for users group. We yield to the committee, especially to the Customs and Port Authority relations to that SOP that needs to be tightened up. There was an SOP, but it's not really tightened. It's just, I guess, something that we are looking for. It's an issue, and we're not going to say that we're not going to have a invasive species come in, but it is it's something that every one of us look forward that we can have a better communication and connection to have a quicker process is what we're looking at.
I think then, Mr. Cruz, would you be, or can we have you work with our governance committee and the equipment and facilities committee to develop that SOP? I think it'd be the most,
Yes, and I'll report that back to the board users too, that we're part of the governance. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our partner reports. Agenda item 9 for business, transit shipping fees.
Great, that's me. So, about a year ago, Port Users Group and myself, along with Chelsea, our director, we had met with Senator Shelton in regards to looking at the administrative rules and regulations relative to the Guam invasive species inspection fee and assessments for specific containers. And so one of those containers that were identified that were currently in question were the empty containers and some of the trans-shipping containers, in which the shipping carriers were not able to properly bill. I can kind of understand that a little bit better. So we are looking to, again, try and work with Senator Amanda Shelton to address some of those trans-shipping fees. Because currently, right now, those trans-shipping fees are not being charged through the invasive species. So that's all that I have with the trans-shipping fee.
But do the containers, are they offloaded?
So they
Part
are.
of the conversation, right, is that are the containers offloaded?
Yes, so let me give you an example. You got a container that comes to Guam and it's all loaded and it's touching the ground. And it's going to be transshipped to Saipan. And in order for that container to go back to its home port, it has to return back to Guam. So the question is, how many times are they gonna charge that container? That's one of the permanent issues that they're looking at, their question. Only because the container has to come back to Guam and to go back to the ship, to go back to the home port. So how many times are they gonna charge that container and every container?
When it returns to Guam, is it touching ground again?
Yes.
I would say that's another fee.
Morning, John Alves, Security about Customs. All shipping containers, all cargo, all baggage access points are means of conveyance for invasive species. So to put just a number, we can do that. Any container can potentially be a conveyance of an invasive species.
I agree with that, and then each time it touches ground is an opportunity for that.
Has there been a public hearing, Bill?
Yes.
We had a public hearing.
If I don't think there was any.
No, this, wait, are you talking about an amendment? Because
Yes, we're talking about.
this is an amending, so this is a conversation about amending the biosecurity invasive species bill that had already become public law when we changed how we calculated the fees. And then it became an issue, when the carrier felt that it wasn't fair, or they, to charge them a fee for an empty container. But it has been our position, and this is the agency I'm now hearing with CQA, that anytime a container touches the ground on our island, we're posing a risk to our ecosystem, and there's a potential for an invasive species to make its way into the island. I haven't heard anything to change my thoughts on that, whether the container's full or empty. And if it's touching ground, leaving the island, going somewhere else, touching their ground and coming back, that still sounds like another fee or a charge. And I think we've tried to be judicious and fair with the fee that's imposed. I mean, it's like what, $20 or $40 per container, depending on the size. For 26.
Does the board users discuss this with Mr. Carter and everyone? We have, did our own analysis for everyone in the committee. Take a look at it and please understand what Mr. Santos is trying to say. If the charges starts adding up and you look at all the different perspectives of where all the containers are coming in, it's all going to be passed out to the community. It's not going to stay in the communities. So we're trying to, you know, build commerce. We're trying to understand that Mr. Santos said, why you want to double dip on a container that would which I found this year, there was an out there by, you know, this as well, inside that port. And now every other port is starting with, including Micronesia Island, like I said, they're very strict. They're more stricter than Guam. So I want to say that everyone is taking stands and taking a look at these species, not only Guam. And for the shipping companies are affected for the fact that this new will cost that's pass through. So it is something that we just take a look. If there is findings of this by, you know, the invasive species that I think are taken, I understand that.
So majority of the containers now that return back to Guam from the outer islands, they just touch the dock, they don't need to come. They just got loaded back on the way on the ship. So that's the question that they're asking, is why are they charging when the containers never left the port? They just gonna come up one ship, stage it, and then go back up to the other ship. So that's what's the concern about this. We understand about the potential threat, but if how's Guam, the question is how's Guam being threatened by this species if the container never actually went that port?
Actually, this was discussed back in, I think, 2019, 2020, and 2021. I'm not sure why, it was supposed to be, I know that the council members, some council members, agencies were supposed to get together with, HUD to discuss how we're gonna do that, and then one of the recommendations was to do a technical study to reaffirm if the fees are valid and the concerns that we have. And by the way, in terms of the container, from my understanding, when the container touches Guam ground, the law makes it clear that it is assessed for that permit or for that fee. And so if it touches the island of Guam, it's automatically assessed that. So one is we should do a technical study to reaffirm the actual appropriate fees, and if PUD has a concern about or other members have a concern, and then go and also amend the law, because the law is the one that comes in and says if you touch the island of Guam, doesn't matter whether it didn't open, but it touched the island of Guam, you assess the fee. And so we have to really take that back to maybe one of the committees, which is maybe marketing and budgeting, to determine that, and then see what we can do to maybe get a grant, a technical grant, and go in and do an assessment of what are the appropriate fees that are associated with that we actually need to move on.
So, Mr. Sanchez, I believe that what you're talking about with the assessment of the fees, that was all completed, because this amendment that had happened, or not, the first amendment to the law happened last year or 2 years ago, and then the law was passed, the bill was passed and signed into law, so the fees were corrected. Everyone participated in that conversation. So then the question became, which this new potential amendment is supposed to work on, or the conversation should address, is the second offloading of the container when it returns and it's empty, because some of the members didn't want or are contending that they shouldn't be charged a fee if the container's empty and it doesn't leave the port. But as you said, the law says entering Guam.
Yeah, so they want that to be more
That's
clarified,
really what the
because the
clarification.
container is not intended for the community. It never left the port, it's intended for transit. Because Guam is the hub, or it goes up to museum and Christianity, so car will come off, it won't be parked about 100 feet and it gets back onto the vessel. So they want to clarify that, because we need to be more clarified. Talking about computers that went out to the community, they upload a cargo, they load it, get back in. That's where the biosecurity is.
So I think it's worth moving this conversation, otherwise we'll be talking about it for a while, into a committee, a subcommittee for discussion. To bring in, again, with the port users group, Senator Amanda.
So I would just like to express, Glenn Dula, University of Guam, former Department of Agriculture, species coordinator. So I would just like to express my strong displeasure and disagreement with bringing this back into committee. Yeah, we've done this several times, we've already corrected it, and there's been multiple discussions and scientific discussions showing that an empty container is not really an empty container. You know, the outside of it is not clean, the inside of the container is not clean. Once it leaves the control of our island, it's considered, you know, it carries air, carries dirt, carries invasive species. You know, we discussed this, I'm not sure why this is still a problem. You know, we all, you know, and to Mr. Santos' point where he mentions that container never leaves the ports and goes out into the community. Guam is Guam. You know, we all, most of us here concentrate our management efforts and interdiction efforts at ports. So once it touches ports, you know, that's almost ground zero. So I feel like, you know, starting over again, possibly, the same conversation we had in 2010. So I feel, let's just move on. And honestly, I understand the people's concern that the cost will be, I guess, passed on to the community. But, you know, we've already agreed that we're going to pay for this many times over again. I don't know. We're moving back to this. Sorry, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Lula. Okay, I think this conversation, hearing Dr. Lula, everyone else, we can, there'll be some closing of the loop, so we can move it into a subcommittee. I agree 100% that it's been discussed, it's been settled, if the issue arose at some point with contention during, but we need to settle it, and I feel it's very close to that. So we'll move it on to the subcommittee and move on with the agenda. Timing.
So do you need a motion for that, Madam Chair? To move the trash shipping?
Sure. I motion to move the trash shipment, the conversation to a subgroup committee, some with the governance committee to discuss.
Well, I think governance, the budgeting and one, because the issue is fees, not.
But it's the law that needs to be addressed. It's the
Well,
policy.
that's the recommendation that will come out of that. And maybe we can get some, I mean, you know, I agree with, Glenn and Jula that it's a dead horse that we keep on hitting, and we need to settle it once and for all. That, I'm sorry, if it touches Guam, if it's a danger to Guam, you need to take the necessary precautions. And if it touches the island of Guam, it is a danger. And the people have to get involved in it, we're paying resources to make sure that that doesn't happen. And he's correct that if it hits the port or the entryway where it can come into the island of Guam, that I'm sorry, pass it on to the consumers, because that's the price we need to pay to protect our island. But I send it to a committee, whatever the committee is. I think we need to refer to the committee and settle it once and for all, so we don't come back with this transferring fee issue again. It's settled, and that we publicly make sure that it's known that, hey, I'm sorry, this is it. But
Yes, I will move this discussion to a subcommittee.
yeah, I second the motion.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up again. You guys are bringing up the conversation, which will start the ball rolling to start to change, to consider change. Again, like, if I reiterate myself, the conversation, and I think we've all agreed that the conversation is already done. Like, we've already settled on the fee. Why are we bringing this back to the committee and start talking about it and possibly initiate change when we don't want change? At least I don't. I think the director has mentioned you don't want to change. You say, bring it back to the committee and settle it again. It's already settled.
We're not talking about the fees. The final piece is the definition of what is, I mean, and the entry is going out to the container going out to the community. I understand the container goes out to the community and everything, but it's just making that,
Actually, my contention is that once it passes the 3 mile mark, it's entered Guam.
Yeah, so by that definition, or, you know.
It's territorial waters.
see, another thing that brought up, another question that the super brought up is, and I asked, you know, my photo, I haven't looked at the law yet, but is it a identifying container cargo or identifying cargo, period, any kind of cargo? You got big bulk cargo, you got, that's another question that came up. But now, if you're only identifying, if the law is only identifying container cargo, then it's kind of, because we have a lot of different cargo.
was just like to say that as Dr. Dula put up there, we have had this conversation. The science has not changed. And the habits of protocols as far as has not changed. And what was V2 was if it touches the island, that's it.
I know what I'm
In fact, that was the conversation.
Yes, I also agree wholeheartedly with Dr. Doolin. When the container hits the ground, it didn't say, oh, I'm over here at the port, I'm not gonna get off this container. It's gonna get off whatever and wherever. So that, there's nothing to argue about that. As far as the fee, you guys said, the law says, once it hits Guam, the fee is there. So to me, I don't know what all the discussion is about, referring to a committee to look at those things when it's already the law. Now, if the shippers or whoever don't agree with it, and that's fine, but they can go and lobby the legislature or whoever to adjust it. But as it is, it's already there. That container can come to Guam 10 times in one day, but it's still, when summer came back, even if the ship is somewhere else, the ship is also somewhere else, not the Saipan or whatever. That ship could be carrying a lot of things that can be get on that container and come back and get on board. So they're really, we're wasting time here in this because it's already there. Like I said, they can lobby to change the fees or whatever, but I don't think we need to know that kind of thing right now. There's nothing there for them. Also, while I'm talking, all this stuff should be done in the committees. And then once they file a report, either on the website or whatever for our thing, for us to review, make comments and send it back and forth. So when we come to this meeting, all we're doing is submitting and voting. Because I know I'm looking around here and a lot of you guys are probably working and getting paid. I'm not, but I'm here. Okay, I'm here because I love Guam and I'm trying to help. But still, I got a lot of things to do, and talking about this, saying the same thing over and over is not productive.
So, given all of that conversation, I move then that the council, through the Department of Agriculture, will draft a letter to Senator Shelton to address the lobbying that has occurred thus far with our position. That's where it is at. They've already gone to the senator, they're lobbying for this change. And so we need to write a definitive letter that tells her and states our position and clarifies for the senator or for the legislature that position, and that'll finalize it. So that's my motion, to just draft the letter closing the discussion. Second?
Can I say something?
Yes, sorry.
Dr. Morning. So I'm very lost again with FCT, and this is the first time I've attended a GISP meeting. So I'm hearing a lot of, I'm learning all of the goings on for GISP, and it sounds like this conversation that's going on right now is causing a lot of frustration for people. Excuse me. And I think I agree with the ideas, or actually the establishment, that every time a container hits the ground in Guam, this is a new opportunity for potential invasion of invasive species, or whatever the species is, right? And so I keep hearing that this is a conversation that's already been had. So maybe the next thing, if I can suggest, is the education subcommittee come up with a campaign. How do we talk with the port users group or with the cargo shippers to get them to understand that every time a container leaves Guam and then comes back and touches ground, this is another opportunity for invasive species to enter Guam. Maybe that can be something that can be discussed in the education committee.
Great point. Thank you. Did we vote? We didn't vote yet, right? On a motion, so just.
But after this motion before, I withdraw the first.
Yes, I would withdraw the first motion to move this to a subcommittee and move forward the second motion to draft a letter to Senator Blah, or the senator, the legislature, all the senators, closing the conversation.
Second motion.
Discussion,
You already have discussion.
saying none? Call for a vote, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next old business, biosecurity division operations. Okay, you already did that. New business, pre-workshop planning, that's today, this afternoon. Any discussion on that? Or everybody understand, we're just gonna be here for that? Okay, next item. There is a pre-workshop, the pre-regional biosecurity workshop planning meeting this afternoon. Tickets from 12:30 to 4:30. On Island Regional Biosecurity Workshop. That will be taking place here for those who want to stay and participate. Next item under new business is the Guam Invasive Species Management Plan update.
I move that we update.
Okay. I second, all in favor of updating the 2009 management plan?
Aye.
Okay. The item C, interagency biosecurity task force work plan. Okay. So moved, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The item agenda 11, youth pest alerts.
So, currently we have about 34 reports of this new invasive pest, of the hawthorn beetle, gotcha, quattro, I always get the last. Hawthorn beetle. Yeah, it's a leafy beetle. So we've had already about 34 reports. It's on nearly every village now. Current efforts are still surveillance, but at this point, we're aiming it as non-eradication. So, any discussion, any questions or concerns?
Are there any potential biocontrol options?
Not that I am aware of.
It's a crisis method. There probably are, but. Wait, say again, the mic's there?
It's a price melody.
That's right.
This is around.
Yeah, it's a leaf beetle in the family Chrysomelidae, which is the common thing. We have Chrysomelidae already on Guam. Pumpkin beetle that chews up the herbaceous. There probably are control agents, but you'd have to actually do for an exploration. Find somebody who has actually done that and bring this crazy critters in. We haven't done any of that. But it would be worth looking for. I've only had one call on that insect.
The last security is that.
You have one already. You've had three. Yeah, I suspect it's something down the road that we're gonna want to take a look at. Biocontrol, with pricing on it would be tough. Very expensive.
What community does it impact? Like the
Citizen brothers.
No.
Citizen brothers.
City dwellers, but I've had calls for people reporting it on other trees. There was a local tree, and then there was another one that wasn't even a fruit bearing tree, and it was all over that.
You have a picture of it?
I do, but. Yeah, I'm not.
It looks like it's orange lady, but
It's okay.
It's just a comment. Just a comment I agree with Chris that gets passed by that. we're naturally.
Yeah, so, Dr. Miller was mentioning, we are past the eradication phase, and therefore we'll have to implement it as, potential control, mitigation and control, so at least prevent it from getting off the island to other islands. But the current impact right now, that we know that's the most impact that this pest has is, any hop trees or, cynical lettuce trees that farmers are growing. Those are seen to be the most impacted, plant species at the moment.
Okay, and new, item agenda, 12 new pest interceptions. Same thing as new pest alerts.
So yeah, these, this new item that was put here was, for any pest interceptions that have occurred between, kiss leaves. And so, of course, last kiss meeting, did mention that there was velvet longhorn beetle that have arrived in the vessel. Or actually in the shipping container. And so that was the latest, and that was, again, this past year. But anywhere between the last GIST meeting to now, there were no major pest incursions. And yeah, that's all.
Okay, agenda item 15, discussion comments. Is that an open floor? We have an issue? Okay. Item agenda 14, announcements of our quarterly meeting dates. Second quarter is January 8th, third quarter, April 9th, fourth quarter, July 9th. So noted.
So I know that, can we announce the date of the?
January 13th is the date for the regional biosecurity training on island.
It's a one-day event?
January 13th, 17th.
1 week event.
And that's the tentative dates.
Location identified or not?
Not identified yet. Okay. We're exploring venues that will fit our budget.
And with that, sir, seconded, any opposed to adjourn? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Okay, minutes are good.